In Myrtle Beach, you always go at your own pace. Lie out on the sand, lie out by the pool, go boogie boarding, go surfing, walk the boardwalk, walk the Marsh walk, golf at one of 90 golf courses, mini golf at one of 50 mini golf courses, fish off a pier, fish from a chartered boat, go shopping, get drinks, eat the freshest seafood. The list is exhaustive, but the experience isn't. You can go all out or do nothing at all. How you relax is up to you. There is so much to do and explore, whether you're traveling with friends, family, or just yourself. With 60 miles of beach, you're going to find your place. If this sounds like what you need, then this is where you belong.
Twisted Tea and Myrtle Beach wholesaler Better Brands Incorporated. Know our consumers enjoy relaxing days on the water with Twisted Tea's original hard iced tea in hand. It's important to remember drink and boat responsibly. Choose to be or designate a sober skipper before leaving the dock. Do it for your family and your friends, your passengers, and everyone else on board. Twisted Tea salutes all sober skippers who take the pledge. Cheers, and we'll see you on the water.
Realtree has always had a connection to the fishing industry and the outdoor lifestyle. In 2016, Realtree expanded on the traditional business of creating the world's most effective camouflage patterns to create a fishing brand and family of patterns designed to connect the woods to the water and strengthen the bond between the two worlds. We couldn't be more excited to be working with the industry's top brands, retailers, and anglers to continue our growth, and we hope that you will join us. Enjoy Realtree fishing patterns inshore, offshore, on the lake, or at the dock. Learn more about the extensive line Realtree fishing patterns, apparel, gear, and more at Realtree.com. Trilogy Outdoors.
All right, folks, welcome back to another episode of Trilogy Outdoors, and this is episode 37, Stephen.
All right.
Number 37, we are at the Trilogy Outdoors podcast studio here. Oh, I meant to ask you, what is that?
That's a sable.
All right, that's a sable. All right, so what's this thing they're killing in Texas now and New Mexico that has now become, not native here, but they have taken over? Big, long, black, and male, and the male and the female does have horns.
Okay. Do they swoop back like that?
Mm-hmm. Just like that. And they have the curls in them that come up, but they don't go all the way up. They stop about right here, and then it's solid.
It could be an oryx.
Oryx. That's it.
Okay.
Oryx. Wow, they're incredible.
Yeah, well, there's a bunch of different animals that have them sort of like that that are endemic to Africa.
Yeah.
And some in Asia. That one is an African sable. Used to be prolific in the southern African area, but it's really they really only focus on a couple of countries now. They're in Zimbabwe, which is where I killed that one. They're in Mozambique. They're in Tanzania. I think they still have some in Namibia. I think they're no longer in Botswana, other than like farmed animals.
Yeah.
But wild sable only exists in about 10 or 12 countries. Now, they do very well in those countries, and there's plenty of them. But in Africa is a different kind of place, and this is a different conversation. But
aren't you excited about going there?
Hunting the wrong creature there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
These creatures shoot back.
Yeah, these creatures shoot back. So there are places in Africa that have developed a real hunting industry. Okay, South Africa is one of them, and the way that they've done South Africa is, they've taken the land, they've privatized the land, they've privatized the animals, and so when you think, does it exist in the wild anymore? The answer is sort of, but not really. Right? I mean, I guess it's sort of the same way. Like, think about East versus West in North America. In North America, is a deer wild? Yes, a deer is wild, but it exists on my private property.
Right.
Right? For the most part. Out west, a deer is wild, but it exists on public property. There's hardly any public property, if any, public property in South Africa anymore. Now, there's lots of what you would call concessions or government land elsewhere in Africa, but anyway.
Well, most of that land, can you hunt?
No.
No, that's what I didn't think. Yeah.
So. Yeah, there are places you can hunt that have given concessions to outfitters, and then the outfitters sell a quota, a number of tags that they get from the government to foreign hunters. Okay, and so the government is the one that is behind all of it ultimately, but
Yep.
Different concessions have different quotas, which are given out by the outfitters. There's also obviously national parks. You can think of giant national parks.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, Africa is a different. Some countries have adopted the Native American conservation model, which has worked very well for them, but it looks very different. In the places that have not adopted the North American conservation model, there are hardly any wildlife. There is hardly any wildlife. It has been taken over by what you would call settlements. It's taken over by cattle or goats. For the most part, there's hardly any green. It looks like a wasteland, and it is a wasteland in a lot of places that they have not adopted this hunting conservation North American model. And that's pretty sad, because without the hunter in Africa, wildlife doesn't exist.
That's right.
I'm telling you right now, I don't care what the environmentalists or the greenies or the PETA people say. Without hunting in Africa, the wildlife disappears. The lions disappear. The elephants disappear. All the fun things that you like to look at and take a photo of on Photo Safari, they all disappear without the hunter.
That's a great plug for episode number 1. Go back and listen to episode number 1 with Jim Shockey.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, Jim Shockey.
You'll hear it exactly right out of his mouth.
He talked about it in detail on episode 1.
Exactly. Well, it's episode 37. Coming off Thanksgiving. We had a great Thanksgiving myself. Hope y'all did. And you lined up a great guest. I know we said we were going to do trivia. Here's the deal. We're moving trivia a couple weeks. What we're going to do is move trivia to right before Christmas and do it.
We're going to do a Christmas.
Honestly, we've been busy.
We have.
I'm not going to lie. Steven has been so busy fishing and hunting that he has not had time to get No.
That's a good problem to have.
I know. I'm throwing it on you because I'm the one that's supposed to come up with the trivia question. So I'm putting it on me. It's my fault. But you did get to go fishing this week.
I did.
And you caught some nice fish. You had a good trip.
We did. We had a great trip. And we set out with the intent to go sword fishing.
Right. We were hoping for a sword through the fish's heart, not ours.
Yeah. And I told the guys first thing, I said, the weather, we got a window. Today we got a window. Last night it was blowing 20, 25 knots. The next day it's blowing 20, 25 knots. This little window right here, I cannot imagine that there's not going to be some kinetic energy still left in the ocean. But it says on my weather apps that the wind is dying down to less than 10 knots, and it's going to be 1.5 to 2 feet all day long. So we're going to give it a shot. And what do you know? We stick our nose out at the jetty, and it's like 3.5 to 4 foot. It's doable, but it's not 100. I don't want to run 100 miles in it.
No.
It was a doable day the first 2 hours, and then it did. It got nice. It got by 9 o'clock. It got nice, but
so it did later in the morning. Okay, so it wasn't late in the day that it got nice. It was just a little bit later in the morning.
Yeah, but we needed those 2 hours of run time.
Yeah,
to get 100 miles offshore, and
right.
So we ended up bouncing around. We actually did push out and do some deep dropping, but that's still 40 miles from where we would have sword fished.
Yep.
Right. So I mean, we pushed out 55 or 60 miles and ended up doing some deep dropping, but. Had a great day, caught a lot of bottom fish, put a lot of meat in the freezer, so really enjoyed it. And I got to use my new gaff.
Hey, really? On one of those big bottom species?
Well, yeah. Well, you know why I needed a new gaff?
Why is that?
Because a buddy of mine put my old gaff, which was a piece of junk,
Yeah.
put my old gaff in one of the rod holders in the T-top. And
and it bounced out.
Well, I think it ended up in an oak tree in Merle's Inlet somewhere, if I had to guess. So thankful to him, I got rid of that piece of junk gaff, and I got a real gaff.
I'm going to guess yours has like carbon, and it's got a gimbal mount on the end of it and stuff like that. It fits in the rod holder.
It's super nice, and it's called Marsh Tacky. And you know what? We just happen to have the owner, a friend of mine for years, a good fishing buddy.
A former all-star on CharlestonFishing.com, just like the other two of us. Old Yellowbird over there. What was your code? It was.
Now you're talking about 2 lives ago, because the former life,
that was lobbyist.
After recovering from Charleston Fishing life, where I went by Finn.
Yeah.
But Finn. Just 1 life
Right.
ago, I spent a lot of time in the State House lobby.
Oh gosh, I'm sorry.
Which is also where we knew each other from there.
So So we would see one another and we would pretend to not be working for just a second to get, just to get a break. We got one guy about the people's business and I was about my client's business. And you hate to do that as friends, whenever you get a chance to talk to one another briefly every so often. Hey, I need you to vote this way. No, I could never do that anyway. But I was just a conduit, basically. Here's what my people want. Just letting you know. Have a nice day. So, but I have moved on from that, and clearly I'm doing something much more fun now.
Oh, yeah, man.
The voice you hear is Wes Covington.
Absolutely.
The owner of Marsh Tacky, who, Wes, I'm going to let you give a very detailed description at some point, but you build carbon fiber gaffs, outriggers, what else? That's basically it, right?
That's the bread and butter.
Yeah, that's the bread and butter of it. But these are high-end stuff that you're going to pass on to your kids, sort of.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, unless you leave it in a tree.
Unless you leave it in a tree.
Yeah,
right?
but I mean, the quality is just incredible.
This is not one you go and get from West Marine.
No, you're not.
At least not today, right?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe
Maybe never. It depends on what West Marine's ownership chooses to do with their company. But our company, with our ownership and how we started out, it was more of a, my wife's going to let me turn the hobby into something to make a little extra money, and maybe we get to spend some money on fuel to go offshore and test things out. This is a good concept. Oh, wait, everybody wants to buy more, and, and everybody's got a good idea on how to make anything better. So if you just stop and listen to them, you'd be amazed at what you can come up with. And as much as I want to take credit for a lot of it, it's not me. It's just we've got a lot of great customers who are those people always pushing the limits, pushing that, for the next best thing. How can I do something a better way? And that's what's so great about sporting, outside, hunting, fishing.
Yep.
People are going to talk about it, and talking about it and thinking about it is just as much fun sometimes as quote unquote doing it.
Yeah, I mean, you brought with you a what? I mean, this is a gaff, obviously, but I'd say that's a
like a mini
2 foot, 20 inches, something like that.
That's a 2-footer, lifetime warranted. You can throw it into the swimming pool, and it'll come up to the surface and float.
2 foot gaff that I'm going to use on flounder or something. I haven't decided yet, but something for inshore species or something
with him. That thing could be stuck in an alligator, a wild hog. I mean, you never know with him.
Could be, but this thing is awesome. It's a little mini version of like what I would call a dolphin hook, right?
Yep.
I mean,
That's
I
our
guess
smallest. Yep.
yeah, like a dolphin hook. I mean, and designed this way, like you could put a little kid's teacup inside. What do you call this thing right here? The curvature. You probably have it.
We call it a belly.
All right,
belly.
so the belly, right? You could fit a little kid's teacup inside the belly. And the purpose, as I have always understood, the smaller bellies for flatter fish, right?
Yep, exactly.
Because a fish lays flat, and when he turns over on his side, you want the belly to slip up against the flatness of the fish, and then obviously as it turns in, it gives you a real good hook.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to a big wide round fish like a wahoo or a swordfish or a mako shark or something that's round. You want a big wide belly, right?
Yep.
All right, so you don't get those in your average everyday gaffs that you can get from somewhere else, right? I mean, you got a typical sized belly, which is, I don't know, that big, in your typical AFCO or whatever gaff you buy from the West Marine. And sometimes it's just you see these guys that throw really bad gaff hooks on a regular basis. This takes a lot of the guesswork out of it for guys that are really bad at
It does.
For guys that are really bad at gaffing. And there's a lot of them out there.
I don't even want to talk about that.
Right? Well, you don't want to talk about it because what?
No, because somebody
experience.
They show up. I think it's a 4-inch. They show up going king fishing with a gaff with a gap like that was this wide. I mean, it was terrible. I mean, the first 2 swings literally like the fish just sat in the middle of the gap, like never got a point in him or anything.
Looks like a flying gaff.
But Lucas has got one of those on the boat, and there's no missing with those. But I like how light they are. That's the main thing. I mean,
and if
I'm going to have to.
You drop it, Wes, and it flows.
Yeah, we want them all to float because stuff happens.
You make mistakes.
Yeah, and if you just bought the best product you could find, the last thing you want to do is give the guy a call and say, hey, I need another one. I don't want to pay that much for it, though. I mean, golly. Well, that's fine. You know, if it's kind of like a rifle scope or other things that we could talk about. If you buy it one time, it should last.
Yeah.
Period.
Exactly.
Why not make it float? It's carbon fiber, so carbon fiber should be lightweight. So
it's lightweight. It works. It's sharp, and I love them. I got 2 of them. I got one for wahoo swordfish, and I got one for dolphin. And I don't know if I'll ever need another one unless it ends up in an oak tree.
I don't know. The gaps are incredible, awesome, but the outriggers and the center rigger like we've used with Patrick, they're just so awesome, as light as they are. I mean, that's the main thing. They're light. They're easy to work.
So when's the last time you got up on the gunnel? And
I don't even want to go there.
You're 18 foot.
And you have to put your shoulder up
aluminum.
And go like this.
Yep, you got to put your shoulder up against it, and you're trying to like dislocate your shoulder to get it up high enough where you got the angle that you want, and then you got to tighten it down
quick,
screw it down quick before it falls back out of the locket.
Yep.
I mean, this carbon fiber stuff has really changed the world of fishing.
Absolutely.
And, I mean, y'all, Wes, I don't want to speak for your company, but y'all are putting them on a lot of new, I mean, really the best boats that are coming off of the manufacturing line right now are putting your stuff on them. I mean, Freeman's putting them on a lot of their boats. I've seen a couple Invincibles putting them on their boats. And, I mean, the best center consoles rolling off the market right now, putting your stuff on them. That's got to be, I mean, you just started this business, what?
How many years ago?
5 years ago?
2015.
7 years ago?
Yep.
And, I mean, you've got some of the biggest accounts in the business. That's incredible.
Yep.
It's great.
I'll tell you, as far as like an option for a smaller boat, I mean, not mine, I got a bay boat, but, a smaller 23-footer, you don't want to put those heavy pieces of crap on there. It's a lot on that T-top. I mean,
you can hear them.
Perfect options.
You can hear them going.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And you're gonna have to send them back to said South Carolina manufacturer and have the floor redone to hold the T-top in.
We know somebody that's happened to, don't we?
Yeah, well, yeah. You put all that weight on that. It's not designed for it, but
no.
I'm telling you, I love them. And you're doing the gaps now that are the longer ones that are 2 pieces, right?
Yep, we can build them any way people want, but to ship was the first reason for a 2-piece. But then you can also take that 2-piece and you can fit it into a smaller boat. You can store it.
That's the thing, especially with the kingfishing. You don't want to that big. What's the biggest gap you've ever made?
Biggest hook size, titanium alloy, which is not a cheap material. That thing was probably we call it a 6, but the penetration depth was like 9 inches or something like that.
Oh, good Lord!
Made out of 1/2-inch grade 5 titanium rod, which took 3 people to actually bend it to create that hook, with 10 feet of leverage on it to bend it. So you can imagine what it would take to unbend it.
Right.
That was probably the strongest gaff, not necessarily the biggest. The biggest was a stainless hook so far, and it's just a monster thing. I don't know what they're chasing, Moby Dick or something. But the longest would probably be a 14 that somebody requested. Most of the kingfish tournaments, I've even heard, usually it's 12 feet. You'll get disqualified if you're over 12. Well, now these guys have got my 12-foot stuff down in the Gulf Coast area, and some tournament series has decided to ban anything over 10-foot because people felt that my 12-foot, or I should say.
Right, yeah.
Our, it's not just me anymore, certainly. But they gave you too much of a competitive advantage, and you got a 1.5-pound gaff that's 12 feet long competing against somebody who does not have said gaff, and suddenly, whoa, that wasn't. So I kind of take that as a compliment.
Wow. That's a compliment. That is.
So the 12-foot gaff's 1.5 pounds.
1.5 pounds.
That's incredible.
Yep.
Isn't that amazing? I mean, it's just
strength wise, how a pound that length gaff weighs 1.5 pounds. What is it designed to hold up to?
What that one is designed to do, that's a tournament kingfish gaff. So we want it to flex and have some dampening so that smaller, sharper, lighter, more accurate hook doesn't come out of that fish, and that smaller, more accurate, sharper hook will go into the gristly part of the fish rather than the vitals or anywhere else where blood's going to come out and cost you money. Well, you got 200 fish being weighed, a half ounce could be $5,000. So it's not the gaff you want if you're wahoo fishing or tuna fishing, but it is the gaff you want if you're king fishing.
Right.
It's like if you're bass fishing, you want to take care of your fish. If you don't take care of your fish, you don't know what you're doing, it's going to cost you a lot of money.
Yep.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah. We had a 4-ounce loss in the camo. Lucas and I did.
Yep.
4 ounces, all in the way we handled the fish.
Yeah.
We were dummies. We went completely reverse on, and it wasn't the gap.
You packed ice on top.
We packed ice on top of the dang fish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thought we were doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Well, some of this is trade secrets now. I mean, there's a lot of people who've gotten the gaff, and I've asked them what their opinion was. Do they want to help me sell them, get some videos, pictures, and they're like, hell no, I don't want anybody else to know how good this is. People will look at this and think it's too light, it's too weak, too strong.
Go figure.
Well, come on, man. You got to help us out. We're predominantly word of mouth. We don't put ads on TV. We don't put ads in magazines, national magazines, I should say, because we're competing with people that are in West Marine. If you've got a $50,000 budget for marketing every month, what can I do with that?
Yep.
And I consider what we're doing as craftsmanship more so than running a corporation or a business per se. I like to have the compliments that I get when you first pick up our product and you say, wow, this is so much nicer than I thought it would be.
They're like, it's like artwork, really. I mean, if you have an appreciation for fishing and all things fishing, the gaffs are like artwork to me. They're just beautiful, and they work. They're functional, and they're sharp. I'm really impressed with them, really. And I used to be one of these guys, honestly, like cheapest stuff to get me by for the year, and then I'm probably done with it at the end of the year. That used to be me, and I'm telling you, I've changed over the years. I've gotten into high quality. What I want is high quality stuff that will last. I like stuff that I don't have to worry about.
Right.
It's going to be there when I pick it up to use it the next time. It's going to be there. It's going to be reliable. Totally changed. And I don't know if that comes with age or experience or what, but totally changed. And your stuff does it. So kudos to you.
How do you find out more about it? You have a website?
MarshTackyCarbon.com.
That's awesome.
And you order right through there?
Yes, sir. We're on YouTube, Instagram. Instagram's a big one. People get surprised. I don't really, like I said, I don't really spend money advertising because we wouldn't be able to keep up with it anyway, and then your quality gets affected and you have growing pains. I've had plenty of growing pains anyway, but and that goes back to the coolest thing about having a company like this is people you get to talk to on a regular basis. Your customers will stop to get to know you a little bit before and after a sale, and they give me advice, they give me encouragement, and that's, oh, you're from South Carolina. Where are you at in South Carolina? Oh, yeah, I've been there. I fished with Captain Fred, Captain E.
Yep.
Yeah, I went and did this. Everybody, it's a small industry. And I learned that in the past from, having to deal with federal fisheries issues or anything like that. You'd be surprised how many people know one another, no matter what their position is on particular topics. We're all sportsmen, and we all hear about something going on very quickly.
When Wes was in the lobby, he lobbied, maybe I shouldn't say this out loud, he lobbied more for fishing regulations than he did
than what he was supposed to be doing.
When he was off the clock.
Yeah.
When he was off the clock.
Yeah.
He did a lot more lobbying for fishing regulations or anti-fishing regulations than he did for the counties. But
well, people like me because I could credit them with everything else I had going on, because I couldn't take the credit if I was on the clock, right?
That's right.
That's right.
That's exactly.
You couldn't.
I'll never take the credit.
That's exactly right.
Take the blame, though.
All right, you wanted to talk about fish. You wanted to talk about weather apps.
Yeah, weather. While we were, let's talk a little bit about weather apps. You mentioned your trip yesterday and kind of being surprised at what you saw in the morning, but you knew coming off of that there was going to be that kinetic energy left.
I had suspicion, and that is a intuitive gut instinct from just being there and doing that more than a couple times. Watching weather, seeing the window, and saying, "Okay, let's go do it," and then you do it, and you realize the window's not quite what it should have been. But if I was a newer fisherman and I relied on that in a 20-foot bay boat, according to the weather yesterday, I should have been able to get out 60 miles in a 20-foot bay boat.
Right.
Okay, and I'm telling you, you would have sank in Winyah Bay before you got to the South Mount. You would have sank in Winyah Bay, and you would have sank in Winyah Bay on the way back in. But as soon as you hit that cross current, if you're coming from the south, which we were, and as soon as you cross around the South Mound, and you got a 5-foot swell meeting a 2.5-foot chop, you just nosedive to the bottom of Winyah Bay. That
place is dangerous. I don't care what you're in.
It can be. It can be. And this is. I'd love for a meteorologist to say, this is the problem. This is the problem with accuracy of these forecasts.
Oh, we'll get Ed on here. We've had him on the radio show multiple times, and we'll have him on, and he'll tell you that he has no faith in it.
I have. I do. I don't have 3. I have 2 on my phone, and I do look at both of them to make sure they're somewhat consistent. But at the end of the day, I've noticed an inconsistency with northeast winds. Okay, anytime you see a northeast wind, you can't trust it. Anybody that's been fishing, I know Wes is shaking his head. Anybody that's been fishing knows east, northeast, north winds cannot be trusted. Both of those apps I got on my phone, it'll say east-northeast today, 8 to 10 knots, 8 to 12 knots. It's going to be 1.5-foot seas with 9-second periods.
Lies.
That's I'd say that's a damn lie.
Yep.
That's a damn lie. You cannot even remotely count on that being close.
Nope.
And why? It's pretty accurate with a southwest wind. It's fairly accurate, especially if you got 3 or 4 days in a row. Southwest wind, 5 to 10 knots. You see that 3 or 4 days in a row.
Right.
And it's saying 2 foot, 8 seconds. All right, I believe that. If it says east-northeast, throw it all out.
No, and I'm trying to figure out southeast can be bad, but it's never consistently off of like a northeast is. It's never like if it says southeast, 5 to 10, whatever. You can normally plan on it being exactly what they're calling for. If it's ever northeast, I literally, like when you were asking me about going, I could have pulled some babysitter strings and everything, but when I pulled up Fish Track, one of my apps, and looked at it, I said, "Oh man, no, I don't know about that. That's gonna be."
You didn't believe me.
I don't know if I want to burn a kitchen pass for that one.
So by 9 o'clock, from we got in the ocean at. I think we left the dock at 4:30 or so. Anyway, whatever time we left, I think it was 4:30 if I got my days right. By 9 o'clock, it had gotten – there was still some kinetic energy and it still had some swell, but it was slicking off, where you didn't have that real bad chop everywhere. It was slicking off, and you could tell the ocean was starting to cooperate.
Right.
And we could run 40, 45 miles an hour, no problem, wherever we wanted to go, whichever direction, right? By 2:30, it still didn't have much of a chop, but there was rollers rolling back in, okay, and it was getting bigger. And I said, y'all, we need to leave in the next 30 minutes because as soon as that wind picks back up, it's going to turn nasty. And within 30 minutes, the wind picked back up. We had, 3.5, 4 foot rollers with a chop.
Yep.
And it looked like a wash machine out there, If you looked at the weather app, it said 1.8 foot at 9 seconds. 1.8 foot at 9 seconds. But it was blowing out the east.
Right. Now, is the Edisto buoy working yet? Is it up? Is it back up, the new one?
I think it is. Yeah. I think
That's another good one that I do use a lot. And
Wes,
Wes, you're a big offshore fisherman too, so come on, we're waiting on you to chime in as well. But
what do you use, Wes?
what do you look at before you go?
I look at sail flow mostly.
Yeah.
The thing that I'm doing is, I started out going offshore in a 17-foot boat, 21-foot boat, so I would look for what wind was happening, and I would look at the tide. Because offshore, the tide spins the current around like a clock unless you're in the Gulf Stream. And you're in the Gulf Stream, it's pretty predictable which direction the current's going to go and how strong, there's all these things that none of these apps are taking into account is the issue.
Yeah.
It's almost like, if you plunk yourself down in Florida, there's not much tide, not as much current in the Gulf Stream itself. So you got less variables. It's easier to get the weather right in Florida. So I have this conversation with customers about, Mid-Atlantic guys, they're running over 100 miles no matter what.
Every trip.
To get to some good groceries.
Right.
We can go, do a 10-mile run, 20-mile run, get some decent groceries, and, you can take advantage of those windows. Up there, they're going to break stuff. They're going to break the boat. They're going to break, somebody else's outriggers. And they might break my outriggers if it's the wrong thing for the boat, if they're trying to do the wrong thing, wrong application, wrong platform. But if you think, what's the pressure doing? What's the moon doing? What's the current doing? How strong is the current going to be? What direction is the current? All that stuff is going to affect how you're able to make any time offshore.
Yep.
And none of these apps are telling you any of that information.
Nope.
You
got to do some figuring yourself.
I think they've got an algorithm or whatever with some software, and it all is coming from government data that's there, free sourced, if you could call it that. And that is just a different. It's almost like these, like Seymour or Strike Lines or all this stuff. It's the same data.
Somebody's just compiling it.
Somebody's displaying it differently. And which menu system do you like? And do you have it? Some are free, some are $2.99 a month, whatever. But if you're comfortable with it, and it's a confidence thing. You better leave at 4 in the morning and stop fishing at 3, or else it's going to be a longer day.
Yeah, that's right.
What was your 21-footer?
Mako.
Okay,
that's right. You were all hot on Makos for years.
And I had a 25.
You built a 25, right?
Yeah, the 25 was the big labor of love.
Yeah,
and
I remember that boat.
Yeah, you had to pay attention more to the weather.
Yeah, yeah.
And you had to just settle with the fact that you couldn't do but so much. And I would say I'd see the Northeast after a few trips of trying that whole. Well, it says under 10 knots.
Yep.
So, well, I mean, a boat can handle that. Yeah. But man, the problem is it takes so much longer just to run in a smaller boat.
Yep.
Safely.
Yeah.
It kills your whole day. You get in at after dark and you're warm slam out, got beat up, wet. And you're looking at the weather and you're like, this is not what they said. That's bull junk,
Yeah. Your partner yesterday woke me up. Didn't wake me up. I was up. She texted me at 4 o'clock with a picture of the smokestacks. Did he send it to you?
No. No, they were laid over.
I mean, completely 90 degrees. Like literally as he's riding by, he goes, how you think this is going to go? And that's when I texted y'all, hey, y'all left yet? Having fun? But yeah, that right there alone would have been enough to tell me that, it was going to be bad. But then later on, I rode over to have coffee. It was still dark. I couldn't see the ocean, and I didn't feel a lot of wind when I was out there. But then I saw somebody put a drone picture up from Paulie's at 740 something, and it was beautiful, just like some rollers. And I was like, oh man, they got lucky. They got it nice out there. And Lucas was like, it wasn't nice. He said it was not terrible. He said, except for first thing, it was terrible.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, even with 30-something years of offshore fishing under my belt, I still make mistakes. I made a mistake this year. I turned around this year and came home. I don't remember when that was.
I do.
7 or 8 weeks ago. I mean, even with it, I still make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. You watch the weather, you think about it, and you hadn't been fishing in a while. We're going to push it and we're going to go. And you get 20 or 30 miles out and you're just tired of getting beaten and you turn around and come home. It happens.
It does happen. If you're leaving from here, it's not that bad to go test it. Like Fred Rourke has always said on our radio show, when he's on the podcast or whatever, He always says, you ain't gonna know until you go. I mean,
Yeah.
and that's the truth. I mean, and he's just talking about whether he can go make it across y'all to go to North Inlet to go fishing.
Right.
You know, but you will not know if you don't go, and that's the truth. But when it comes to that offshore stuff, and there's so much work, again, you've been working on the boat all day today.
Yeah.
And you had to work on the boat all day Tuesday.
Yeah.
I mean, Monday before you went.
I mean, that's the life of a boat owner, right? I mean, if you're going to be the boat owner, it's going
I
to
think it's more so. I mean, yes, on any boat, but I think when it comes to offshore fishing, there's so much that people just don't realize, don't think about that goes into offshore fishing. I mean, to my dying day, offshore charters that go on an offshore all-day trip on a charter and do not tip. I literally wish they would have fallen off the boat halfway back. I said it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, fact of the matter is, I know how much work the mate put in. I know how much the work the captain's putting in. And, yes, you're paying them $2,000, $2,500, whatever it is.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. I mean, I tip $20 at the freaking dry cleaner. Like,
it is an insane amount of work and time and effort.
There's 3 days. Seth and I laugh about it because Seth's young. I don't know who of y'all are the youngest, but I would guess he's younger. You're closer to, well, no, you're 40, aren't you? No, you're in the mid-30s.
I'm 41.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
You got him.
Same age. You got me by a few months.
Yeah, so, but like Seth said, he's like, dude, I love going. He said, but it's a 3-day deal.
Yeah.
I got to get the boat ready, get baits ready, get rods ready. I got to fish all day. Then I'm going to come home, and a couple people will help, but then tomorrow I got to get the boat cleaned up again, get it fueled up, and get it back on the lift, and blah, blah, blah. It's 3 days of stuff. Yeah. I mean, that's how it is.
A lot more expertise and responsibility over who you're taking out there, too.
Oh, absolutely.
The boat's life support. It's not just a ride. Like you jump in the golf cart or either car to go a little ways down the road. No big deal if it took you longer, but offshore?
Yeah.
Oh,
it better be in mechanically sound condition or else you're going to die.
Now, both of y'all are you're partners in a boat, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and you were. But
I have been.
And have been, and you have your own now.
Yeah.
But, yeah, hang on, I'm having a brain fart for a minute. Well, first off, is it still the same one? I don't want to say it on the air, but is it in the inlet here?
No, we've got a Freeman in the inlet.
Yeah, okay, all right, that's what I thought. Yeah, that's what I thought. But, yeah, there's so much that goes into getting the boat ready and everything, and if you don't have somebody else to help you out and legitimately do some of the work, I mean, you got smart. This man found him a young diehard.
I tell you, like after years of washing boats and cleaning fish at like 10:30 at night, and then you stumble into the shower at like 11:30 at night, and then you just fall dead in bed at midnight. I mean, I'm not that old, but I'm too old for that anymore. So I found a high school kid, great guy, that's just like, listen, you come home, hand me the keys, I'll clean the boat, I'll clean the fish, and you wake up, everything's good to go, $100.
Yep.
Done.
Oh man.
I'm gonna charge that to everybody that's on the boat.
Don't give him his name.
Yeah, I'm gonna find out who this is.
You know what? I mean, like everybody on the boat pays for fuel
Yep.
and bait usually. And then I say, guys, I got a guy that cleans the boat. If you want to participate or you want to go clean the boat on your own, go ahead. Which one you want? $25 or you want to go clean the boat and the fish?
Take the $25.
Taking the $25 all day long.
Absolutely.
And if they say I'll go clean the boat and I fish, I say go to hell, go to home. You're not coming home. You're not coming to my house at 9:30 to clean the boat and the fish.
No.
So I'm telling you, that has been a lifesaver for me. Even though, like you look at me, I mean, I'm dirty and sweaty because even with him cleaning the boat and the fish, I'm still out there unloading stuff. And
No, I think most of that sweat came from something you found on the boat today.
yeah, that too. That too. Luke, I'm going to call him out. Okay.
Oh, I'm going to if you don't.
I'm going to. So
does he know about this yet?
No, he doesn't. So Lucas, I'm not going to call his last name on the air.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Lucas goes fishing with us yesterday. He puts on a coat. Evidently, he hadn't worn this coat in a while. I don't know. He puts on a coat to go offshore. And out of his pocket comes a pair of very skimpy panties, okay, of which I said, why do you have panties in your pocket? he said, man, I don't know. I guess my wife washed my coat or whatever, and they ended up getting in the okay, that's weird, but all right, sounds good to me. He left them on my boat yesterday. Okay. I got in my boat today to start unloading stuff, and there are those panties laying in the console of the boat.
I mean, the best thing would have been like if you'd have just thrown it, like, because you were working on the boat in the yard, thrown everything in the yard. This is how I do it. I throw everything off the boat.
That's what I did.
And you threw them over, and then you're sitting there down there cleaning, and all of a sudden, I can hear Renee right now.
So I'm getting to that. That's what I did. I picked up the whole wad of coats and, bibs and everything that's in there. I picked them up, and I threw them out of the boat into the driveway. And I saw that pair of panties laying in the driveway. Okay, and I had a freak out moment.
Oh, boy.
Like 30-second freak out moment of, oh, my gosh, what if I wouldn't have seen those? What if Renee had seen these in the console? A month from now, I'd have left them in there. Holy crap, they're not hers, they're not her size, they're not her brand,
Oh.
Anyway, so I texted Lucas and Inglis, and I said, something to the effect of, get your damn panties out of my boat. I mean, that's the kind of stuff you get divorced over.
Well, I'm telling you, you think that you were worried about being embarrassed. I can speak for Lucas right now. I can go ahead and tell you, we have not texted other in the group text. I can promise you that his most embarrassing moment in a while was the minute that he pulled those out of his pocket with you on the boat and you saw a pair of thongs, because I know how he is.
Dude.
But that is funny.
Right there.
There they are.
Among my bibs and my coat and everything else.
Come on.
Yeah,
that is
like
great.
A little skimpy pair.
That is great, but you could see it happening. I mean, those pockets. I'm sure he had on that rain jacket, the bigger, heavier jacket, and it's got Velcro in it, and I bet it went through the washing machine and or the dryer.
I can see it. Okay, I got it. But still, they ended up on my boat. Okay, yep. And despite his laundry problems, they became my problems quick. So I marched my happy behind right over to the trash can.
Yep.
And I picked up the first 3 bags of trash on the trash can and stuffed them under the 3 bags of trash.
And put them in there.
Put them in there, closed the door, and hope to God Renee doesn't go through the trash.
Well, it's a good thing Renee doesn't listen to the podcast.
She ain't going to listen to our podcast.
No. Well,
somebody will, though. Somebody will.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I'm sure everybody's got that pair of panty stories on the boat thing. But it is.
Do they? Speaking of panties, you wanted to talk about Christmas gifts for the sportsman. English.
Oh my God! Here we go. How do we go? How do we get on panties for Christmas gifts?
Well,
yeah, Christmas gifts.
Obviously, Lucas needs a new pair of panties.
Yeah, Christmas gifts, and it's a hot topic this time of the year. And I find, I mean, heck, I get so many emails from people and texts from women. From women asking on advice for their husband because they don't want to go. I mean,
not panties advice.
Not panties advice.
Clarify.
But they don't want to buy the wrong thing. We are very picky as fishermen. They don't want to buy the wrong thing. They don't want to spend more money than they actually needed to. They don't want to spend less money than what they needed to. Mm-hmm. They just needed some direction. And I was like, I always say gift certificates. You can't go wrong. I don't care what it is.
Yeah.
And that way you give them that opportunity to get whatever they want. Gift certificate to one of our local stores here, Base Boys, Polly's Island Outdoors. Gift certificates to Marsh Tacky. Go order your gaff. Get your,
Let me suggest.
They're great.
Yeah. Let me suggest if you got a fisherman in the family, an offshore fisherman in the family, a 6-foot Marsh Tacky dolphin getter. What do you call these hooks, Wes? Do you have a name for the hook?
We size them as T1, T2, T4, T5, so on and so forth. And the T comes from the titanium alloy hook. And
so a T1.
That's a T1 there, and that little tiny thing.
So a T2 would be about a dolphin-ish?
Yeah, the T2 is the biggest seller too. Yep.
Okay, so
that's the next size up from here.
If you have
roughly double that.
If you have an offshore fisherman in your family, springtime is coming right after Christmas, if you don't know, and that's when the dolphin bite comes. Here in the Carolinas, at least, we've got a dolphin bite that runs in the springtime, ladies. And your husband needs a T2 Marsh Tacky gaff.
Yeah.
Can you put somebody's name on it?
Do you do any customization? That's what I meant to ask that.
We personalize things all the time, and we have people who are very, very good wives and girlfriends. I've noticed.
Wow.
I had one last week. $3,000 worth of gift certificates.
Good for him.
That's smart.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
I got to call him back here. In fact,
there you go. That's a good way to do it.
Because he left a voicemail right before I got here. Yeah, hey, I just need to order these things and make sure that credit's going to work. I'm like, well, yeah. We appreciate that.
That's what I was thinking. That's a great idea. I mean, update electronics or something else that's big. If you're really looking to really get on the radar with your loved one. Updated radar. I mean, updated
electronics would be a big one.
Oh, yeah.
Have you looked at electronics lately? Holy moly.
Dude, you should have come to the seminar with Garmin.
I've got Garmin 7212s, twin Garmin 7212s, which I think were installed in 2015. They're antiquated now.
Oh, come on now.
Right? I mean, they are.
What you have to explain to people is this wife season is coming up right after this. So if you want to have a big wife season, wives,
yep, you
go all out on the Christmas season because that's we got Father's Day and Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Right.
That's it.
That's true.
Birthdays, May it depends.
My birthday's a week before Christmas.
Oh man,
I'm terrible. I'm in a bad spot.
My birthday's like a sock. I mean, I get a sock.
Yep.
I don't even get two socks. I get a sock, and the other one gets lost somewhere in the laundry. And so I end up with a sock. Well, I can tell you that birthdays and Christmases are big for the hunter and the fisherman and everything else. And we're not just talking fishing. We need to talk hunting too, as far as gift ideas. But you couldn't go wrong with the gift certificates and getting a great gaff. But the electronics thing, man, the live scope. Good gosh, dude! I'm telling you that Garmin. Oh yeah, we got way off topic.
I'm right there with you with the electronics. That live scope is unbelievable. I can tell you that it'll be on Not Mine 9. We'll have live scope. We already have set that up. I will.
And are you talking about for inshore saltwater fishing?
I'll be using it in 80 to 120 foot of water.
Really?
Yep.
It's that good in deep water.
It's good up to 400 foot. It goes up to 800 foot.
I don't believe it. I mean, I know they say that, and I hear you. I got to see it to believe it.
I'll tell you, I would be the one place that I'm a little worried about where it's going to be as productive as they say it will is along the jetties. I just think with all that turbulence and everything. Mm-hmm. But then, in the current. But then you think about it, like he said, some of these rivers that these bass guys are fishing in, the current's flowing as much, if not harder. So it's not that big a difference. But where you've got a little bit difference is in the high salinity and the water. But it doesn't make a difference. You've got settings, saltwater, freshwater, that come on that Garmin unit. You change it if you're in saltwater and you set it up. For me, on a bay boat, I'll have a bracket mounted on the front. My trolling motor will be separate. I won't be mounting it like the bass guys. I will have to manually turn my live scope and angle it to where I want to watch. The trolling motor, I'll just try to keep me off the jetties or on the reef, wherever I'm fishing, and then I'll use that. Here's the thing that's going to make a difference. When I go spade fishing, I'm going to go to the normal spots where I normally go, and I'll sit there for 45 minutes. Woo-hoo. Okay, nothing there. All right, boys, let's move. Trolling motor, move 20 feet, 30 feet, go somewhere else, do it. With that, I'm going to pull up, I'm going to put it down.
You find your school.
I'm going to look around. I'm going to find my signature, which I'll have to figure out myself, the signature that a spade fish is going to show off on there. And then I'll go concentrate on that area. Sheep's Head on the jetty, same thing. Right now, Merle's Inlet is covered, and that's our local inlet here, covered with sheep's head in about 3 spots. Mm-hmm. And those spots might move 50 yards. Today at high tide or the last hour to rise, they're here. They may move 50 yards. So you're going to have to fish and burn all that time. Oh, here they are. Found them. Nope. You're going to ride up with that. You're going to put it up, and you're going to see all their signatures, and you're going to go, okay, boys, let's get ready. Here we go.
All right, so Inglis, Captain E is advocating for his Christmas gift, a Garmin Live Scope.
Yep. Mr. Stewart, if you're listening, I would love to have that. We've already got that in the works. But if I'm telling you, it's a game changer. And we were talking about black drum, just inshore. Black drum, love to get deep, love to hang out in the hole. You know, typically we all have our spots where we fish for them. We know what tides are going to be there, but they may be, again, 100 yards off. You fish there, you put your time in, you feed the pinfish, and then you move again, and then finally you find them. No, you just roll right through the middle, keep panning down the side, look for that deep hole, that 12-foot hole. You look over there. Oh, look, all over it. They're covered up. All right, boys, let's go over here.
So the live scope is a separate console than, or I don't know what we call
it.
It is. Console. It's not the traditional dual chart plotter.
No, it can. The
Sonar.
right package is the same as your unit, same as my unit, whatever you want.
It's a plug-in to a chart plotter sonar.
Right.
Okay.
And it's all in the transducer.
Yeah.
For that.
Right.
But you do have to get the live scope capable.
The black box thing.
Right. And it will speak to your other unit. So you can have it to where that other unit, and we're being Garmin specific here. We're not paid to do this, but I'm talking about it. But you can have that unit speak to your main unit back in the back, which in turn can talk to your phone if you know how to use your active captain.
I don't. So
you don't?
No. I mean, back to what I was getting at earlier with my Garmin 7212s. Not compatible with any of that anymore.
No, you'd have to have a separate unit.
You have to upgrade all of your electronics in order to be compatible. I mean, if you're going to put Seymour maps in, you got to have a newish SIMRAD.
Right.
If you're going to put the Garmin blue chip, the same, the Garmin.
You got it
version.
in yours, right? Or you couldn't?
No,
that's right.
I couldn't because mine's a 2015 version.
Right.
So you got to upgrade to the newest version, or a newer version of your electronics in order to use any of this amazing technology, like what you were talking about. What's it called again?
Live scope.
Thank you. Live scope or Seymour or blue chips or any of that stuff. You got to upgrade all of your electronics nowadays, which stinks because have you looked at how much a main screen and a slave screen?
Oh, God.
I mean, not even two separate units, but a main and a slave are, somewhere in the $5,500 to $6,000 range.
Oh, yeah.
For bigger boats and bigger screens. I mean, it's just crazy amount of money. But you got to have it.
It makes a difference.
You got to have it.
Like that trolling motor on the bow of your boat. Would you ever, 10 years ago, would you have said, what kind of idiot is putting a trolling motor on a boat that big if you saw it go by you?
I would have never guessed.
And then when you started trolling around them and watching them all over there jigging out there catching king mackerel in the Gulf Stream, winning king mackerel tournaments, but or blackfin tuna or something like that.
I would have never guessed. Yes,
trolling motors.
We were on trolling motor yesterday 4 hours.
Yep.
My trolling motor ran a little more than 4 hours yesterday.
How's your battery?
75%.
There you go. See?
75% with the new Dakota lithium 36 volt. 75%. We ran that trolling motor 4 hours. That was 4 solid hours of fishing that I would have been otherwise on a drift, bumping motors in and out of gear, having to reset when we come off of the drift, not able to fish myself because I'm constantly captaining the boat and dealing with it. And then, I got to gaff this fish. I got to pull this fish in. I got to rebait this hook. I got to tie a new rig on, and I got to captain the boat. Well, now I can just focus on what's going on in the back of the boat and not have to worry about captaining the boat. It just sits there.
And the great thing is you went with lithium. Lithium's expensive. It is.
Oh, it
but
is.
You went with lithium, and you were able to leave out a lot of additional weight.
Yeah.
Adding to the boat.
Oh, no doubt about it. Yeah. No doubt about it. It's the only way to go anymore. It's just amazing.
Y'all have one on your Freeman too, don't you?
Oh, yeah, it's a game changer.
It is.
And you would have
Did y'all do the Rodan?
Yeah, we had a Minn Kota before the Rodan. Before the big Rodan was available, we had the Minn Kota, and the Minn Kota was awesome. I would highly recommend it. Got the Rodan, it's just another level, and you would have never thought it was that much difference.
Yep.
Because already, you're not throwing the anchor in and out of the water. You're not dragging it up on a ball. You're not, safety-wise is another thing. Not just the wear and tear that you're saving on everything, and the more, it's like having 2 extra people on the boat just working constantly for you to have a better time, to enjoy it.
Yeah.
So it's worth everything. Worth the.
But then the productivity of your fishing, I just think, increases so much. I just think you're so
yeah.
willing.
It does.
Where I mean, I know. I mean, you're a diver and you're experienced at anchoring out there, but most of the time you're already down at the bottom for your anchor hits. But you're more willing to make that 20-foot move when all you got to do is go.
Absolutely.
You know.
You just hit an arrow and it takes you another. I think it's 5 foot at a time with Rodan, but
Yep. And I don't care if it's grouper fishing or flounder fishing at 3 Mile Reef. It just makes a big difference.
which by the way, that really helps with bottom fishing. And Wes here is a bottom fishing extraordinaire. But,
yes.
But there are times when you've just worn out a little piece of that ledge, or a little piece of that bottom. Like you'll get real excited, agitated, angry, hungry bites. Like as soon as that bait touches the bottom, and then after about the 5th one, it just stops dead in its tracks.
Yep.
And you know what you do? You just hit that button about 3 times and move down the ledge 15 feet.
Yep.
And then you do it again, and we're getting bites again, or we're not getting the bites again. Let's move 15 more feet. And eventually you get back into the fish again.
Yep.
And you don't have to redo everything and relearn, the way the ledge lays and all of this.
Well, Minn Kota makes a great one, and Rodan for saltwater. I'm not going to say much about the others, but Minn Kota and Rodan do make great ones.
Totally agree. If you could combine Minn Kota's got the automatic retrieval, and doesn't it?
Stay away from it.
They've got some cool features. We had to wait a while to be able to.
Y'all
sync
went with the
together.
automatic, didn't you? On your
we
Minn
didn't.
Kota?
We didn't because
Okay.
because it was a little buggy.
Yeah.
With these first software versions and all this
Yep.
stuff, and we've got older Simrad electronics too, so you've got to update software, and then next thing you know, you got 3 things that came along with the giant 60 features of new software that are buggy, and everything crashes every 30 minutes, and so we can't have that going on. So the Minn Kota was better as far as all that was concerned. Bugs worked out. I think it's just a larger company perhaps, and Simrad or Navico was more interested in having everything together before anything was released. Rodan, we couldn't even get it synced together. We're missing some little plug-in or some actual device was missing, and David eventually got a hold of it and has got it all synced up now, and it's like, sliced bread.
I heard they were really good. I heard they're accurate, really accurate. I heard
They're super accurate. But so you've got an automatic retrieval on your Rodan?
No automatic retrieval, but to be able to sync into the chart plotter where you're at the helm and you tap the chart plotter screen, this is where I want to navigate to, and the thing does it.
Yeah.
No, it's super good like that.
You have yours set up that way too?
No, I don't.
Okay,
Because I have the old stuff. But
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, if Rodan could figure out automatic retrieval and deployment, where you don't have to run up to the bow of the boat and hit your foot switch and unhook the thing and do it and then run back, and if they could figure all automatic deployment and retrieval out, I think that'd be the perfect motor.
Yeah.
You would never need another thing. That's the only thing lacking from Rodan for me.
You went with Rodan.
I did.
That's what, okay.
Yeah, I've got it, and I love it. I think it's changed bottom fishing for me, and I do a lot of bottom fishing too, and diving obviously. And it's changed bottom fishing and diving for me. But automatic retrieval and deployment, and they'd have the perfect motor if they could figure that out.
Well, in case you were wondering, folks, we didn't get away from our Christmas ideas.
Yeah,
That last 15 minutes was another great Christmas idea that we were talking about. I'm telling you, your loved one will, if you want to have a heck of a Christmas night, I promise you, let him go under the tree and find a trolling motor down there. I'm telling you, you're going to have a great night.
That's right.
And they are. Minn Kota, Rodan, both of them, very great trolling motors. I think, depending on the size of the boat, space you have to use, justifying going with the lithium battery versus your normal 12-volt, it's up to the individual, but I do think that without a doubt it's a game changer. Gift certificates, any other last gift ideas? Anybody else? We talked about gift certificates to Marsh Tacky and local tackle stores, get you a new gaff or outriggers.
Well, something that a lot of people forget about that is ever increasing in price is ammo. Okay, so we talked a lot about fishing. We didn't talk a lot about hunting or shooting or plinking, whatever. Right. Ammo, harder and harder to come by nowadays. A lot of ladies and men, not just men, They realize duck season's here. It is here, and the night before they're packing all their stuff
and it's
laying everything out. And oh crap!
Yep.
I don't have a box of shells or 2 boxes of shells or a case of shells. I've got no shells.
I've hunted with you. You don't need more than a box.
Well, I hope. But I mean, last year you didn't buy them because they were so expensive, right? I mean that was my excuse. Like, I don't want to spend $30 for a box of shells. So I didn't buy them last year. And this year, when you wake up and it's duck season and you don't have them, you're going to be in trouble. So that's a great gift if your husband or your wife duck hunts, dove hunts, deer hunts.
Yep.
Figure out what caliber. It's usually a 12 gauge if they're duck hunting. But figure out what caliber, what gauge shotgun they have.
Go ahead and get them number 2s.
Yeah, and ask their friends, figure out what guns they shoot, and then get them a box of ammo. They will definitely appreciate that. It is a great stocking stuffer. It's not a diamond ring, but it's a great stocking stuffer.
No, and I had to last week. Of course, we didn't talk about dog drive. We'll do that next. I want to talk about my dog drive.
All right,
a lost art of hunting, deer hunting.
When we do
that is frowned upon, but it is so frowned upon because it has been done wrong for so long.
Yep. I grew up doing it every
You
Saturday.
did too.
Every Saturday. It was a
dog. It's the first time I ever went deer hunting. Was that way.
Dog driving can be a lot of fun. It is a cultural, traditional way of hunting, and especially in the South.
Yep.
But I tell you, it has been bastardized and abused.
Yep.
And I'll tell you one of the reasons why, because you've got a lot of people that, let's just call them who they are, outlaws. You got a lot of outlaws who will release their hounds or their dogs on their 3-acre piece of land and run across my 1,000-acre piece of land, which screws it up for everybody.
Yep.
Right? And that's the problem. Are the outlaws the bad apples ruin the whole batch? If we could figure out a way, Georgia's got a law that says you have to have 500, you have to put out on your own 500 acres.
Right.
Minimum 500 acres before you can put out. If we could get to something like that, I think the rest of the hunting world, the still hunting world, could better swallow except the dog hunting world, and maybe we could get back to some of those traditional hunts, dog huntings.
Yep.
But as long as the outlaw's able to put off on his 3 and run across my 1,000, we're going to have problems.
Oh, that's it. And I was with Lucas. We were with Lucas, and that was the number one thing. And that was important not only to Lucas, the property owner, but it was important to every single one of the guys who brought their 3 or 4 dogs with them out there that are supposedly tournament dogs or trophy or competition dogs. It was the fact that they did not want to find them at one point in time on their GPS off of Lucas's property. And I watched 3 dogs running a 4-pointer, and they were not giving up on him. And all of a sudden, they stopped. I mean, they were just at full bark. They stopped, turned around, and came right back to the truck beside me, and it was his dogs. They literally called him right off. I didn't have radio. I didn't have a VHF. They all did. I didn't know we were supposed to bring a radio with us. But they were all talking, and Lucas said, it's a young buck. It's a young buck. And the old boy with his GPS got all 3 of them. They stopped. And maybe he hits one of them. They're trained. I don't know.
The technology is incredible.
Oh, they all had double antenna collars. They both had, every dog had a double collar.
Yeah.
And they had these long antennas coming off of them. But
that's a good trained dog. If you can turn a dog off of a small buck, that's impressive.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I mean, literally, we're watching them. I'm standing in the back of the truck with my kids who I'm like, I mean, I'm really nervous because I know the way I did it in the club where I hunted, we couldn't see other hunters, literally. I mean, unless you were doing the run down the roads or anything. But we were pretty close. So but we all had orange and bright colors on. So I'm sitting there the whole time, and I'll hear a shot, and they're just over the ledge from me or a little bit of hedgerow, and I'm jumping in front of my 2, blocking them just to make sure. But, I mean, we're 250 yards away from the other person shooting, but I was being paranoid. But every dog was just awesome to watch them come back and turn around. And, I mean, they had one guy, and this guy, I said we weren't going to talk about it, but we are. But they had one guy who wore all fluorescent yellow, safety yellow, not orange. Everybody else had orange on. Yellow hat, yellow jacket, yellow pants. And he went through without a dog and walked everywhere that he sent the dogs. And he kept barking every 20 seconds. He would make a bark noise so that you couldn't see him in the grass, where you could see where he was, and he jumped 5 or 6 deer himself. There was an 8-pointer that was harvested, which was pretty awesome. A local captain here, his first 8-pointer that he ever killed, shot it. I think it was 3 shots. He finally got it down. But it is a lost art, and I would like to possibly get some of those dog handlers on to talk about all the training that goes into it. I mean, and there were beagles and Walker Beagle mixes, all the dogs.
Well, look, I want to dive into that on the next podcast.
Yeah, one thing I got to compliment.
Come on.
I got to compliment you gentlemen, because one thing, and Stephen can attest to this big time, I think especially in the 80s and 90s, I think in the 70s, deer hunting was not that big of a thing yet. You know, a lot of people will tell you, well, Daddy used to hunt here, and he'd see a 6-point every couple of years, and that's about it. And, you went from that to depredation permits, and, the place is overrun. Come kill them all. We need you dog hunters. And then you have what we have developing in the early 2000s, which was dog hunters versus.
Yeah.
And you got people at odds with one another. And the same thing happens in the fishing community from time to time. Yep. I'm speaking from experience. And like I said, I'm in business now, and so I kind of take a step back from the political stuff because I can't have enemies, because people identify me as, well, you're Marsh Tacky. Marsh Tacky takes this position, so therefore we can't buy so-and-so from him. I can't do that in my business.
Right.
Yeah.
So I took a step back, and taking a step back, I realized something really important. It's that whenever we don't come together and have a dialogue like you're having here often with these topics, where you get somebody on here and you get your listeners to at least listen to where they're coming from. Why does he like dog hunting at all?
Yeah.
That's such a stupid thing.
Yeah.
Because what you've seen of dog hunting might be, you're in the tree stand, and, man, every single chance I get to come out here, I get to come out here twice a year. I pay so much money to be in this club, and we take care of everything. This is a pristine piece of property, and, I spend all this money. I do it all the right way. We manage everything, and they come through here, and it's ruined, literally ruined.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
But the dog hunter, you might have a guy who he doesn't know any different either. He says, this is what my grandpappy did, and this is the dog box. The truck stays here next to the kennel, and we go out here, and we do this every Saturday morning. We have breakfast, and we go turn them out. Well, we got permission to be on his land. We got permission on his land. Oh, wait a minute. That was 10 years ago. It's not the same landowner. Wait a second. That paper company doesn't, their insurance doesn't cover it anymore.
That's right.
All these issues are going on, and you got a leader like Senator Goldfinch here who will stand up and say, wait, this is what Georgia did. This is their experience that they're telling us about from their game wardens, from their stakeholders. So we actually cannot just copy them. We're going to do it a better way, because it's 2023 and it's not 1993.
Yep.
We're going to talk about it, and we're going to understand one another. And, hey, like you were saying about South Africa earlier, I don't know if we're live yet, but if you don't have hunting, you really think that many people care about white-tailed deer?
No.
Yeah.
No.
The insurance company cares about them when they hit your car.
That's who shows up in the State House lobby, by the way.
Yep.
Is, wait a second, we need hunting. Believe it or not, I don't want to call anybody out or anything like that.
Wow.
But that's the other thing, as a business owner standpoint, and again, the stakeholders in the sport fishing world and the community is very small, but so are the business owners and the businesses and the management. We all know one another, whether we're competitors or not. We all know about one another's customers, accounts. All this stuff is a small, small world. Yep. So you have something major happening, why are we going to fight one another? Because I guarantee you, what will happen is development, insurance companies, all this stuff, all these people with lots more money at stake than the hunter will win unless we are standing there together and say, this is what we came up with as the solution to this. We first of all, is there a problem? You can't just show up and say, there's no problem. You're crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. Well, there is a problem.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this right whale thing.
Yep.
Man,
it's the perfect example of.
That's some good stuff too.
I mean,
case study.
And we look. I mean, we could go, we could go case study by case study here, But you're right. I mean, the outdoor centric groups have to come together and have to fight these fights together. Otherwise, I swear there has been this coordinated effort by the federal government to shut fishing down entirely in and of itself.
Yep.
And it's, I don't mean to sound conspiratorial about it. I'm not saying it's coming from the President of the United States, okay? I'm not suggesting that.
Well, it's economics.
But
that's not a conspiracy.
Most of the time, it's a bureaucrat sitting in a cubby.
Who has a budget.
Right? She's wearing a pair of Birkenstocks. She graduated from App State. No offense to App State.
Here we are back on App State.
Here we are back.
Sorry again.
Sorry. She graduated from App State. She's wearing a pair of Birkenstocks. She smells like patchouli oil, okay? But she's the one that's writing regulations and rules for the fishermen in South Carolina.
Yep.
Or the entire southeastern coast. And that's where we get in trouble. She's not having a dialogue with us, and she probably doesn't
won't
care to have a dialogue with us.
No.
Okay, so the giant conspiracy really comes down to here's this young lady that really has different worldviews than we do.
Right.
Making decisions for us. And that's exactly what's happened to the right whale, and it's exactly what's happened with 10 other issues over the years. We have to figure out a way to come together and get attention of that person's boss.
Yep.
And that person's boss's boss. Get their attention and tell them something's going on here. You need to pay attention. We have a voice.
And then we send guys like you and Wes to go sit down with them and let y'all sit with them. But there's no doubt about it. And the whale thing on social media kind of got blown up, I guess, this week in a couple different conversations. Praise the Lord, took a little pressure off my Clemson game. But I saw that it's getting hot and heavy, and I don't know where from because I haven't seen anything changed as far as they haven't gone to vote yet on it, or it hasn't. I don't know. It didn't look like anything had changed when I went to the Fisheries Council.
Well, it's really bizarre that Chuck Schumer and Viking Yachts are fairly close. That's his district. There's a lot of people who work there who are Schumer voters. So how could the Senate look at this without that perspective filtering into it somehow? And you have, but again, I really think it just comes back to money, and it comes back from people's perspectives. And if you've never talked to the girl in the Birkenstock, and she's never talked to you, then it's easy for her to sit here and say, well, there are a bunch of people in South Carolina, they are clueless, they don't know what they're doing. And we look at her and we say, well, you've never gone fishing before, you could never understand us and all. But honestly, she's got data in front of her. She's got a boss. There's an agenda. The agenda's coming from the top down, usually in the federal government. And you sit down with somebody, she doesn't want to hear what you have to say. So you find a way to make it matter to her. And what that is with each respective issue, it remains to be seen usually. But if you at least sit down and you listen to her first, you'll say, oh, you know what? We care about that too.
Yep.
Here's what I can give you some insight on. And next thing you know, she's realizing that you're not an imbecile. You're not ignorant. You actually know a lot about what you're saying because you spend more time out there than she does.
Yep.
We're not the knuckle draggers she thought we were.
No. Real quick, between the three of us, we probably have a lot of hours on the water, offshore. How many right whales have you seen?
One.
Yeah, two. Yeah.
And I'm two.
Yeah.
That's 5.
And it's very, very
And
apparent.
I'm telling you, y'all have got way more hours logged offshore, spent offshore. But that's 5. 5 encounters.
And 20 plus years. 30
Exactly,
plus
30
years,
plus years and 20-something for me.
20-something years.
But
I mean, we're at 70 years combined fishing offshore experience here.
Just take that.
5 whales.
And all those years, at 5 whales that we've seen. So now you're telling me that you're going to take 100% of boats that travel offshore for however many miles, and they have to go this speed because you're worried about the whale? No,
I don't think that's what's going on, Stephen. Think about this. Why, when I would lobby, I would think who stands to gain from a vote going a certain way. And instead of counting votes, based on what people would tell me or how they would vote preliminarily in a subcommittee or a committee or what a caucus should or should not do, I would think who stands to gain, who stands to benefit. So if you shut down southern and mid-Atlantic ports, essentially, with, and commerce, if you restrict commerce somehow with this thing going into effect, who benefits? Yeah. Is it some other port? Is it some other state? Is it, so that stuff is playing into the undercurrent here, I think. And nobody, nobody wants to fess up to that, of course, because they don't want to say, hey, we're actually trying to hurt the Port of Savannah and the Port of Charleston.
Right.
Or the Port of Richmond, who otherwise would be very politically powerful.
Right.
And cognizant of what's happening. But, Lindsey Graham and our delegation, Tim Scott is not going to sit here and look at this as a commerce thing necessarily. He suddenly is going to hear about how it affects all of us, and a multi-million-dollar industry, billion-dollar industry in the state of South Carolina. All of a sudden we show up, and all of a sudden we show up at the poll and we voice our discontent or our content based on this single issue. That's when they start caring about it a bit more than the monetary thing that could or could not be going on. That sounds conspiracy theory, but I'm telling you right now, things don't just happen, because of a feel good.
No,
they happen with substantial economic interest behind them.
Yeah,
he's been saying it all along.
I think so. I think I've said this 2 or 3 times on this podcast, but this is akin to shutting down commercial airline traffic because somebody in South Carolina saw an alien, a UFO.
UFO, yep.
Right? I mean, literally, I looked it up on the stats. You know how many UFOs been seen this year by South Carolinians? Over 50.
Yeah.
Over 50 UFOs have been seen by South Carolinians this year. You know how many right whales have been seen this year?
Like 12.
Yeah, I think it was 8.
Okay.
And you can't disprove it.
You can't disprove it, right. So 8 right whales, and we're going to shut down offshore fishing, essentially. I mean, that's the net effect of it, right? We're going to shut it down. Why aren't we shutting down commercial airline traffic? We might hit a UFO. There's been 50 of them sighted.
Well,
it's that asinine. It's that absurd.
And the topic is going to stay hot until it's finally put to rest.
Yeah, I mean,
hopefully.
It will. Listen, thank you so much for joining us. This was awesome. I'm glad,
dude.
I'm glad
I got to get your number, too, because when he's gone 6 months on his other hunting trip over in Africa, I might be reaching out to you, get you to come sit in with me from time to time.
Guest host for us.
Yep, guest host with me. But it was a pleasure hanging out with you.
Likewise.
And, again, what's the email? What's the website? Marsh Tacky?
MarshTackyCarbon.com.
Carbon.com. There you go, folks. Go check them out. And, hey, don't forget, go to TrilogyOutdoorsMedia.com and check out everything we've got going on from the Grand Strand Fishing Rodeo, Southern English Radio Show, Trilogy Outdoors Magazine, formerly Walk 'Em All Outdoor Magazine, and, of course, Trilogy Outdoor Podcast here. Hey, make sure you click subscribe, like, and share with all your friends. Next week, we're going to have another great episode. And who knows, next week, it's going to be fence, fur, and feathers, politics, or whatever. But it's all right here on Trilogy Outdoors.
Trilogy Outdoors Podcast is a product of Trilogy Outdoors Media. All views and opinions of our hosts and guests are not necessarily those of our sponsors. Trilogy Outdoors is produced and edited by Trilogy Outdoors Media. Be sure to follow us on all the podcast platforms as well as our social media pages on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And also, don't forget our other brands, Southern English Radio Show and Walk 'Em All Outdoor Magazine. To find more information, visit TrilogyOutdoorsMedia.com. And remember, if it's anything dealing with fins, fur, and feathers, you're going to find it right here on Trilogy Outdoors.